Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. And this morning's Celtic news, it is all about them this weekend. It is all about them. We finally get to that game, the most important game of this. It's not the most important game of the season. Get a grip, people. It is just another game in the race to the title. There is a long season ahead still to go after the winter break. They're making noises and the players making a noise about the fact that he decided to go to them over us. A load of nonsense. The fact that Brendan Rodgers has up to 10 million to spend this transfer window, it's believed, on players for the long term, not a short-term fix. Celtic are going to have to get rid of some players just to make way to bring players in, but it's players that haven't lived up to it. And let's face it, they're bringing in another player just in the similar mould of Aaron Ramsey. Remember him? Yes, the best player in the world allegedly, and he came to them and done absolutely nothing. So once again, they've changed manager and they've done it again. It's like being back in 2012 on just Groundhog Day. New manager, boost, do nothing. New manager, boost, do nothing. Seems to be repetitive for that lot. Anyway, we move on from them. We talk about Kyogo Furiashi. There's been a lot said about Kyogo Furiashi and the fact that he hasn't hit form the last couple of months. He did score on the 23rd of December against Livingston. He did get a goal then. Is it that Kyogo is not making the runs? Yeah, I would suggest that he is making the runs. Even Chris Sutton said it. He's making the runs. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to work out that he's not getting the service that he's had over the last couple of seasons. With Leila Bada coming back into the frame this weekend, will Kyogo then get the service that he requires? And with Dyson Maeda starting to look like the player that he once was, and then you have to think about it, Rio Hatate walking back into that team, that would give Kyogo a massive boost. And let's face it, Leila Bada set up quite a few goals for Kyogo over the past couple of years. So I would say that it isn't that Kyogo isn't scoring just now. He is getting into positions. He's just not getting the service that we have had. And we can all talk about it. The fact that we've brought back Mikey Johnson this season out of cold storage hasn't been a highlight of this season. We do know that we are going to look at a winger. We're also going to be looking at strikers in the transfer window. But before we get to that, we've got a couple of games that we need to play and a couple of games that we need to win. We always need to win every game at Celtic. So just, even if we get a draw at the weekend, if the unthinkable happens that they were to win with no fans at Celtic Park, just like what we did, remember back at the beginning of the season, we did beat them on their own patch with a depleted squad, and it all worked out fine then with Leila Bada running amok that day. When you look at Dens Park, we could have had a lot more goals. We didn't. The Japanese internationalist Kyogo, will he go to the Asia Cup? He's not been scoring that many goals. 2 goals since the start of November is disappointing reading for him. But when you look at it, he's not hiding. He's making the runs. He's trying to get behind. He's trying to make things happen. It's the supply isn't there on a regular basis, and that's about it. The supply isn't coming in from the wings. It is, though. This is the thing. He needs to get into better positions for the likes of Lewis Palmer. Lewis Palmer's been putting in some cracking shots, and once the two of them start clicking, I think it'll get a lot better. But then again, Lewis Palmer, some of his passing's been a bit woeful at times. Anyway, there's no denying the fact that Kyogo, when it comes to this game at the weekend, when it comes to the derby, the Glasgow derby, it will be, he needs to score. He needs to score. He needs to get that one on. There's no way that the quality of the level of the opposition that he's playing, they're not going to sit back. They're not definitely going to sit back for 80 minutes. They're going to have a goal, which should open up the pitch a bit more for the likes of Kyogo Furiashi, and hopefully that'll allow him to get a goal at the weekend. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. We'll talk about that this evening. We'll talk about the score predictions and not even score predictions. I think we'll talk more about the squad tonight. There's another player in the Celtic squad that for me has to do it this weekend. It's a big game. Big game. Charlie needs to come out of Paulo Bernardo. He needs to step up to the plate and show that the £35 million guy that's coming in from Portugal to them. Now, you've got to remember, I watched the game that we played against Wolves in the summer, where Silva came on and did absolutely nothing. It was woeful against us. So, yes, he'll score goals in the SPFL. Yes, he might do a little bit of good for them. It'll give them a boost. But in the grand scheme of things, one, they're not going to be able to buy him, and not at any kind of cost. And they're throwing everything by the kitchen sink at us to make sure that they have a chance of winning that league and getting that 60 million. They see that investing that money and paying the majority of his 80 grand a week. The majority, yes, we have to pay the majority of his 80 grand a week. Where they're getting that from is anybody's business. But then again, Aaron Ramsey, Mark II. We move on from that. Rio Hatate is such an influential player, but when it comes to it, the big man, Paulo Bernardo, really needs to turn it on. He did score a goal just recently, which was fantastic for him. I think he's a player that has grown in stature. He needs to prove his worth, and he needs to just turn around and just sort of boss this game a bit and put on a bit of a show for the Celtic fans. Hopefully, Rio Hatate gets back into the team. Would that mean that Paulo Bernardo gets dropped to the bench? Or will it be the fact that Paulo Bernardo will start the game with Rio Hatate maybe coming on to get some game time towards the later half of the second half of the game? There's going to be a lot of players that will be disappointed the fact that they will be moved on in January. The clear out has been widely talked about. Obviously, the first one I think should go is well, let's talk about that this afternoon. There's going to be a video coming out around about 1:30 this afternoon, and it's keep, buy, or sell. Remember that we did do that on a live a couple of weeks ago. I've now done it on a video, just a shortened version, and I'll talk through the players, the whole squad, and whether I think we should keep, we should sell them, or we should bench them. Should bench the players. We'll look at that this afternoon. Brendan Rodgers has been talking about the fact that there's going to be a lot of noise this week. And one of the funniest ones, obviously, was the headline that Brendan Rodgers is on the Newcastle list of management if the manager, Eddie Howe, gets sacked. Surely a big game this weekend. If you look back to the 1990s, it was always a case in the papers that back then, Mr. Pegleg Murray would always, if Celtic put out a good news story, they would always put out an over-exuberant news story right after it. And the very next day, and one of the funniest ones was Ibrox, £750 million refurb, hotel, casino. What happened to that? It's still a dump. Anyway, you're going to get lots of crap like that this weekend, this week leading up to the game. There's only a couple of days left. It is Friday, so the game is tomorrow. I'm just actually checking what day it is. It is Friday. And then an early kickoff tomorrow. We will do it live tonight at 6 p.m, talking about the game tomorrow and talking about what we think might happen. It's one of those games. It never works out the way that it's planned. A derby can either go one or two ways. It can go absolutely fantastic for us, or we'll have an off day. Being 5 points clear at the top of the table, it is up to them to come into this game and make sure that they grab some points. It's really important for us to make sure that we get something out of the game also. It wouldn't be a bad result or draw. It would be devastating being a loss, because then it leads to the bragging rights, and that's all this game does at this stage of the league. That's all it does, is it gives you bragging rights for going into the winter break. One, that you've won the game. They can't go top of the table, which is the good part about it just now. They can't go top of the table before the winter breaks now. So whatever happens, we will still be top of the table during the winter break. It all comes down to bragging rights, and that's it. Bragging rights only last for a couple of weeks. It's a bit like disappointment is just part-time. Liquidation, on the other hand, is permanent. Yep, liquidation is death, isn't it? It's permanent. You can't change liquidation. You can't go back and say that never happened, or you can't remain disappointed about liquidation. Anyway, Celtic remain top of the league following their 3-0 win on Boxing Day. Let's talk about it tonight. 6 p.m. tonight, Celtic part-time. We will do it live. We'll talk about the game this weekend, and we'll have our team predictions and our predicted lineups. But then again, there's still no word on the big man, Cameron Carter-Vickers. Will that be a massive loss if Cameron Carter-Vickers does not play? Celtic have not said a word about Cameron Carter-Vickers all week, which is pretty... Is it a worry? Would they say anything? Will they risk Cameron Carter-Vickers? Because the last thing that we want is him to actually pull his hamstring. That's the second time in the space of a month that he has had a twinge on this hamstring. He really needs to get into this break and get some respite during this little rest period that we've got, the winter shutdown that is only a couple of weeks. But it is what it is. Will Cameron Carter play? Who will play in his place? Stephen Welsh, is he the man? What about Big Rocky? Big Rocky is the man that come in with a big price tag for Celtic in defence. He's a player that needs to be given time, surely. But then again, it's Brendan Rodgers, and a lot of people still don't have faith in the Celtic manager. Time will tell. Join me tonight at 6 p.m, Celtic part-time. And on that note, have a fantastic day, Friday, Celtic fans all around the world.